They flip higher than anyone else. They push their bodies to the breaking point. They carry the weight of perfection on their shoulders. But here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud: being a gymnast often sucks. Not because they lack talent, not because they don't love the sport, but because the world asks them to be flawless every second and punishes them the moment they reign not. Think about this. A gymnast's entire performance lasts less than 2 minutes. A vault? 6 seconds. A beam routine? 90 seconds. Years of sacrifice. Decades of training. Hours in the gym every single day. All for moments so short, you could miss them if you blink. And if one toe slips, if one hand shakes, it's not just points lost, it's dreams shattered in front of the world. This isn't like basketball, where you can miss a shot and bounce back the next play, or soccer, where there's still 90 minutes to redeem yourself. In gymnastics, there's no margin for error. The sport demands absolute precision, and that's where the pressure becomes brutal to understand. Why it sucks to be a gymnast: you have to step behind the curtain. You have to look at the part the cameras don't show. The 5-8M alarms. The endless stretching that rips muscles apart. The mental battles against burnout. The constant replaying of mistakes. Over and over, like a loop in your head. It's not just about being strong or flexible. It's about becoming a machine and then being punished when the machine breaks down. For young gymnasts, the cycle starts early. We're talking as young as 4 or 5 years old. Most professional gymnasts peak before they're even old enough to drive a car. That means their entire childhood revolves around the sport. While other kids are riding bikes, playing video games, or going to birthday parties, they're inside cold gyms, drilling the same flip for the 1000th time. By the time they're teenagers, their bodies are already worn down: stress fractures, torn ligaments, dislocated shoulders, and here's the cruel part: coaches, federations, even fans expect them to push through. Because in gymnastics, pain is treated as normal, and then there's the mental side. The sports world is finally talking about mental health more openly thanks to athletes in tennis, basketball, even football, but in gymnastics, that conversation is life or death. Think about the phrase twisties. If you're a gymnast, you know exactly how terrifying it is. If not, imagine this: you're midair, spinning, supposed to land on a 4-inch wide beam, but suddenly, your brain disconnects from your body. You don't know where you are. You don't know how to land. One wrong angle, and you could break your neck. That's not just stress. That's survival instinct colliding with expectation. And yet, when gymnasts pull out of competitions for safety, the internet explodes with criticism. People call them weak. People say they quit, but no highlight reel shows the reality of flying blind in midair, fighting for your life. Social media makes this pressure even worse. In 2025, athletes aren't just judged by scores, they're judged by clicks. Every wobble is clipped, slowed down, turned into a meme. Every stumble goes viral on TikTok. Strangers behind screens turn pain into content. And gymnasts, especially young ones, scroll through comments that can break them faster than any fall. Words like washed up, overrated, choker. This is the new arena, half in the gym, half online, and it's relentless. But the hardest part: gymnastics demands perfection while giving almost nothing back. Unlike other sports, there's no professional league with million-dollar contracts, no endorsement deals waiting for most athletes after their prime. Unless you're one of the very few global superstars, gymnastics leaves you broken, and forgotten by your mid-20s. Years of sacrifice, lifetime scars. For what? A medal. A round of applause that fades in a week. Behind the sparkle of leotards and bright lights is a system built on pressure. Coaches screaming at children, federations hiding abuse scandals, institutions prioritizing medals over mental health, and athletes' kids really stuck in the middle, paying the price. This isn't just tough love. This is survival in a system that eats its own. Let's get real. The burnout rate in gymnastics is higher than almost any sport, and in 2025, the conversation around sports burnout is finally breaking through. Athletes are speaking out. They're saying enough is enough, that the constant demand to perform like machines is destroying lives. But change is slow, and for every Simone Biles who makes headlines for prioritizing mental health, there are hundreds of gymnasts whose stories never get told, the ones who leave the sport quietly, with injuries that will never fully heal, the ones who wake up in their 30s with chronic pain and ask themselves if it was all worth it. And here's the thing: gymnasts themselves are some of the toughest athletes alive. The hours they train, insane. The pain tolerance they build, unbelievable. The level of discipline they live with, every single day, almost superhuman. Yet toughness doesn't protect them from the system. Doesn't protect them from a culture that values medals over humanity. That's why so many ex-gymnasts talk about identity loss. Because when the sport is taken away, or when their bodies simply can't take it anymore, they don't know who they are outside of gymnastics. That's a weight few people understand. The emotional toll of gymnastics is like living under a microscope. Parents sacrifice everything for their child's career, so the pressure doubles. Coaches push them past limits, so the pressure triples. And the athlete, caught in the middle, learns to smile for the cameras even when they're crumbling inside. That's the dark side of the glittering floor routines and perfect landings. That's why, deep down, so many gymnasts quietly admit sometimes it really does suck to be one. Because here's the paradox: gymnastics is beautiful. It's one of the most visually stunning sports in existence. The artistry, the grace, the explosive power. Watching a gymnast soar feels like watching someone defy gravity itself. And that's what hooks people: the illusion of effortlessness. But behind every effortless routine are years of struggle that almost nobody sees. And in 2025, with AI training tools, sports science, and analytics, You'd think things would be easier, smarter, safer, but the truth is, the demands are only getting higher. Coaches use AI to track every minor flaw, every split-second hesitation. Algorithms decide whether a gymnast is competition-ready. The line between human and machine gets thinner every year. And for gymnasts, that means the goalposts keep moving. Perfection is no longer enough. Now, they're asked to be beyond perfect 24/7. That's the cycle. The world falls in love with the image of perfection. The institutions demand it. The gymnasts chase it. And when reality hits, when mistakes happen, when bodies fail, that's when it really sucks. And maybe that's the biggest myth about gymnastics. People think the sport ends when the lights go off, when the medals are given, when the cameras stop rolling. But for gymnasts, the pressure doesn't stop. It follows them home, into their bedrooms, into their meals, into their sense of self-worth. Because gymnastics isn't just a sport, it becomes their identity. When you start training at 5, 6, 7 years old, you don't grow up thinking, I could be a doctor, or a teacher, or an engineer. You grow up thinking, I am a gymnast. It defines you. And the thought of losing that identity, of being cut from a team, of slipping in rankings, of aging out, that's terrifying. That's why so many gymnasts push their bodies past breaking points. Why they hide injuries. Why they ignore mental health red flags. Because if they're not competing, who are they? That fear, the fear of not being enough, of being forgotten, is maybe the hardest part of all. Think about this. Other sports have seasons. Gymnasts don't. They're training year-round. There's no off switch. No real break. And in 2025, that reality feels even harsher because we're living in the age of constant content. Highlights don't disappear after the Olympics anymore. Every mistake is clipped, replayed, posted, and memed into eternity. The pressure is permanent. Social media changes the game. The gymnast lands a near-perfect routine and it goes viral. Millions cheer, but then the next meet comes and expectations skyrocket. What happens when they miss? The same audience that celebrated them is now tearing them apart in comment sections, calling them overrated, a flop, even mocking their bodies. Imagine being 16, 17 years old and having strangers dissect your worth with every post. This is the paradox of gymnastics in 2025. More visibility than ever, but also more vulnerability. It's empowering, but it's also brutal. Athletes are speaking out about mental health more openly now. Stars like Simone Biles made headlines for choosing well-being over medals. That was groundbreaking, but let's be honest, it's still not universally accepted. Critics accuse gymnasts of being soft, of not being able to handle pressure. They don't see the years of silent suffering that led to that decision. They don't feel the weight of the world, balanced on a 4-inch beam, and the culture of silence. It still exists. Behind the glitter and the standing ovations, there are whispers. Stories of abuse, manipulation, control. Stories of coaches who use fear as a training method. Stories of gymnasts who sacrificed childhoods and walked away with scars, both physical and emotional. Some of those stories are finally being told. Some still remain buried. But here's the truth. The sport is evolving. Slowly, painfully, but undeniably, technology is playing a role. In 2025, AI-driven training is everywhere. Coaches use analytics to predict injury risks. Virtual reality simulations help gymnasts practice risky elements without slamming into mats. Wearable sensors track micro-fatigue levels to prevent overtraining. On paper, it looks like the future, and yet technology can't erase the human side. A smartwatch doesn't heal self-doubt. AI can't take away the anxiety of falling on the biggest stage of your life. No algorithm can replace the courage it takes to get back up after crashing mid-routine. So why does it suck to be a gymnast? Because you give everything, your body, your time, your mind, for a sport that gives you incredible highs, but also crushing lows. Because your mistakes are magnified, your sacrifice is invisible, your body scrutinized. Because even when you succeed, there's always someone asking for more, higher difficulty, cleaner form, bigger medal, louder applause, and yet people still do it. Kids still line up at gyms every day, dreaming of flipping, flying, defying gravity. Because for all the pain, gymnastics also gives something back. It teaches resilience. It teaches discipline. It teaches you how to fight for something impossible. And sometimes, just sometimes, it lets you feel like you're floating, weightless, free. The contradiction is what makes it beautiful and brutal. So next time you see a gymnast on TV, don't just see the routine. See the hours behind it, the tears, the bruises, the nights of self-doubt, the moments where they wondered if it was worth it. And remember, being a gymnast sucks, yes, but it also reveals the rawest kind of human strength. Not just the strength to perform, but the strength to survive the journey that no one else sees. Because maybe, at the end of the day, the real story of gymnastics isn't about gold medals or viral moments. It's about humans who push themselves to the breaking point, not for fame, not for applause, but because deep down, there's a fire that refuses to go out. A fire to prove that even in a sport that sucks the life out of you, sometimes you can still find your spark. So the next time you watch a gymnast fly through the air, remember, gravity always wins in the end. But for that split second, they've beaten it. And that moment, that's why they do it. Smash that like button if you've ever rooted for the underdog. Drop a comment with the athlete who inspires you the most. I want to know who makes you believe in the impossible. And don't forget to subscribe, because tomorrow, we're breaking down another story from the sports world that'll change how you see the game forever.